ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰਜ਼ੇ ਦੇ ਬੋਝ ਹੇਠ ਦੱਬੇ ਹੋ? ਸਮਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਕੀ ਕਰੋ?
ਫਾਈਨੈਂਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮਸ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਮਾੜਾ ਅਸਰ ਪਾ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਲ 'ਚ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕਰਜ਼ੇ ਨੂੰ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਘਟਾ ਕੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਰਕਮ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਫ੍ਰੀ ਕਿਸ਼ਤਾਂ 'ਚ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਰਜ਼ੇ ਤੋਂ ਮੁਕਤ ਕਰਾ ਕੇ ਨਵੀਂ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਜੀਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
1866-790-8984 ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ ਸੋਲੂਸ਼ਨਜ਼, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਪਰੇਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਾਥੀ।
ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਐਕਸੀਡੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਪਰੇਸ਼ਾਨ ਹੋ? ਕਾਲ ਹਾਸ਼ਮੀ ਲਾਅ ਫਰਮ। ਇਹ ਪਰਸਨਲ ਇੰਜਰੀ ਅਤੇ ICPC ਕੇਸਿਸ ਦੇ ਮਾਹਰ ਹਨ। ਡਾਇਨਾਮਿਕ, ਤਜਰਬੇਕਾਰ ਅਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਲਾਇਰਸ ਦੀ ਟੀਮ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਫ੍ਰੀ ਕੰਸਲਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604-599-2900 ਤੇ।
ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਕੀ ਗੁਜ਼ਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹਾਂ।
ਲਾਈਟਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕੋ ਇੱਕ ਚਮਕਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਸੇਵ ਮੋਰ ਲਾਈਟਿੰਗ ਲਿਮਿਟਿਡ। ਪਿਛਲੇ 21 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਸਪਲਾਇਰਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਚ ਕੁਆਲਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਬ੍ਰਾਂਡਡ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਕਟਸ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਹੋਲਸੇਲ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਖਰੀਦ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਸ਼ੈਂਡਲੀਅਰਸ, ਕ੍ਰਿਸਟਲਸ, ਸਪੌਟਲਾਈਟਸ, ਗਾਰਡਨ ਲਾਈਟਸ, ਪੈਂਡੈਂਟਸ, ਵੈਨਿਟੀ, ਆਊਟਡੋਰ ਲਾਈਟਿੰਗ ਇੱਕੋ ਛੱਤ ਹੇਠਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਵਾਜਿਬ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਖਰੀਦ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਰੇਟਸ ਫॉर ਬਿਲਡਰਸ ਐਂਡ ਕੰਟਰੈਕਟਰਸ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਪਹੁੰਚੋ ਸੇਵ ਮੋਰ ਲਾਈਟਿੰਗ, ਯੂਨਿਟ 137, 12639 80th ਐਵਨਿਊ, ਸਰੀ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਅਲੀ ਕਨਾਨੀ ਆਰਥੋਡੋਂਟਿਕਸ ਦੇ ਸਰਟੀਫਾਈਡ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲਿਸਟ ਹਨ ਜੋ ਹਰ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀਆਂ ਦੰਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮਸ ਨੂੰ ਸੋਲਵ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਆਰਥੋਕੈਡ IQ ਦੇ ਕੰਪਿਊਟਰ ਗਾਈਡਡ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਟੀਮਲ ਬ੍ਰੈਕਟ ਪਲੇਸਮੈਂਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਮਿਨੀ ਸਟੇਨਲੈਸ ਸਟੀਲ ਬ੍ਰੇਸਿਸ, ਗੋਲਡ ਬ੍ਰੇਸਿਸ, ਕਲੀਅਰ ਬ੍ਰੇਸਿਸ ਤੇ ਇਨਵਿਸਲਾਈਨ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਵੀ ਉਪਲਬਧ ਹੈ। ਜੇਕਰ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਾਣਾ ਚਬਾਉਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਸਪੀਚ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮਸ ਜਾਂ ਐਬਨੋਰਮਲ ਬਾਈਟਸ ਹਨ ਤਾਂ ਪਹੁੰਚੋ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਅਲੀ ਕਨਾਨੀ ਕੋਲ। ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿੰਗ ਬਿਊਟੀਫੁਲ ਸਮਾਈਲਸ। ਇਲਾਜ ਕਰਾਓ ਤੇ 에ਅਰ ਮਾਈਲਸ ਵੀ ਪਾਓ।
Once again, welcome back after the break. In Sikhism, what is the concept of ego? This is what we were discussing in the previous episode. So let's continue with our discussion, which we talked about in the last week, that what is ego and how to tame it. That's what Guru Nanak Sahib has emphasized in Asa Ki War. Let's welcome Sardar Harbans Singh Kandola, who comes every week to us and discusses Asa Ki War in English. Jai Anu ji,
Vaheguru ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki Fateh. Harpreet ji, as you mentioned, we are trying in this slok, Guru Nanak Patsha talk about ego.
Ji.
How mein dir rog hai. So we were talking about trying to understand the concept of ego according to the spiritual philosophy of Sri Guru Granth Sahib, and how it impacts our life, daily life, and how we get rid of it. And these two sloks talk about this.
Right.
So we were talking about how much hasse, how much rowe. Egoistic person, Harpreet ji, as we mentioned, gain a profit by hera-pheri, and he win election, he get a false praise, he suppress others, he get enjoyment out of it.
Right.
Okay.
He derives pleasure out of it.
Pleasure out of it. Why? Because ਉਹਦੀ ਹਉਮੈ ਨੂੰ ਪੱਠੇ ਪੈਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖੋ ਜੀ
I'm the one who is doing it.
I am the one who is doing it.
Right.
And because he is not spiritually awakened person. And for a Gurmukh, these things are wrong.
Ji.
But because he is a slave of his own mind, he gets enjoyment out of this. And it's nothing better than pumping up somebody's ego. That's what it is. On the other hand, this is a falsehood actually. That's an authentic self-help. It's a falsehood. It's not the person. Okay. On the other hand, when egoistic person face some criticism and face some losses, and his family stand up to his violence, and things do not go according to his own wishes, and he is one unhappy and angry man.
Right.
He blame everybody else,
Right.
but himself. And because he's not a balanced person, he has no self-esteem, most insecure person, because ego gets hurt. That's why, because his ego te sat vajdi hegi hai jadon is tarah diyan gallan hundiyan. He has never paid attention to Gurbani because he is empty of spiritual guidance, spiritual principle. As we discussed before, he never paid attention to Sampe Vekhna Harti hai, Bepat Dekhna Roy. Do not be egoistic when you in a good time, and do not be depressed and angry in a
bad time.
This is ego-filled person. And he has no peace of mind, live in anxiety, dukhan kleshan da jeevan batai janda hai because of his egoic nature. And which we defined early. How which paap punn vichar. So Guru Sahib is discussing the life of a egoistic person.
Ji.
So as I mentioned, we should, when we are listening, we should look inside, is it me?
Right.
And if it's me, then probably I should exactly realize that. How which paap pun vichar. Now to understand this, Harpreet, I had to do some research to understand the word what paap and pun means. In Mahan Kosh, you have to go there. And in spiritual terminology, paap is sin, is evil deeds, violence, stealing, lying is paap, hurting others, jealousy, backbiting, adultery, bribery, or ignorance of truth is paap. And pun is charity, concern for others,
the virtues,
help the needy, noble deeds, being spiritually awakened, as we discussed. So being spiritually awakened is a बहुत बड़ा पुन गुरबानी दे विच गिनया गया. Now, here when we are discussing the life of egoistic person, and I say it's a sad story of this egoistic person. He live in worries and anxiety, doing paap, bad deeds, but he does not enjoy life even doing good deeds because he is ego-filled person, feeding the hungry, like donating to the charities, gurdware ch langar lavauna. This is all for show off because of his ego, and want the name, like what he's doing all this, as you mentioned earlier, that he want his name in the newspapers, and he want the Gurdwara secretary to announce very loudly this
is what I have donated,
is given. Je na announce kita jave ta gussa aayega because of the ego. Oh, humbleness te hai nahi, feeding his ego and home. Lokan vich balle balle ho jave. This is what he is doing this. Guru Sahib saying the pun daan chingiyaiyan. That's why Guru Sahib, as I mentioned before, Harpreet, this is an important lesson when we discuss the Guru says the pun daan chingiyaiyan ban sache kya taas. You may give donations to the charity, perform good deeds, but without living the truth, without being spiritually awakened, all this is worthless rituals. And that's the fact. And Guru says due to his ego home, selfish and self-centered nature, he missed this opportunity. When you do these kind of deeds, you should actually drive a happiness, satisfaction out of this. This is a power of giving, right? And it's a very strong, I think, act by power of giving. When you help somebody, when you give somebody, you receive a lot of inner satisfaction. That helping others. But because of this disease of ego, we lose all this opportunity. That's what the Guru Sahib says. The Tirth Bart Ardan Kar, Man mein tare guman, Nanak neful jaat tai, jo kunchirstan. ये सारा कुछ कीता भी साडा निष्फल चलिया गया क्योंकि no use because we are filled with ego, we are empty of spiritual guidance. Now, how which jati jinsi khove. Basically, what Guru Nanak is saying, the person who is egoistic label others to be lower. I am better. I am मैं अमृतधारी हैं ते तू नास्तिक हैं. It only comes when person has an ego. Is empty of spiritual guidance. Ego means the duality.
You're not as you are. You pretend to be something different, but you are not that. What you
are not that actually. Now, why this happens? Guru Nanak, I picked up the last line before. Nanak hukmi likhiya lekh, jeha vekhe teha vekh. Guru Sahib said the hukmi is hukum anusar, will of God. Lekh mean become egoistic. Vekha mean influence of external environment. Vek mean becomes like that. Now here we need to understand we do not, as I mentioned, we do not create ego. World is full of ego. What path we walk on, that makes the difference. Whether we want to walk on the spiritual path, we want to walk on the path of duality. ਗੁਰਮਤ ਦੇ ਸਿਧਾਂਤਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਜੀਵਨ ਵੱਖਰਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਨ ਦੇ ਮਗਰ ਲੱਗ ਕੇ ਚੱਲਣਾ does not mean we don't use our brain to succeed in life. Worldly success and spirituality according to Gurbani goes together. And you want worldly successes and you want spirituality go together, living a balanced life. But problem is when the duality, we empty of spirituality, ego path become our egoistic power, hunger, status control becomes the priority of the life. Then we run into the difficulty. Jeha beke teha hoy. Self-centered lifestyle when it becomes, then we got this problem. Next Guru Sahib कहने हौं विच भरी है, हौं विच धोवे. Now you are slave to your own mind. Guru Sahib saying attached to the material wealth, spiritually unconscious, chosen the path of duality, हौं विच भरी है. Guru Sahib say हौं विच धोवे. Now you are trying to get out of this ego trap, but apni akal de siyanap de naal. Ego does not want to be awakened. I think this is important we need to talk about is when this is such a bad kind of disease or habit that it doesn't want to be awakened. Egoic person is so stubborn that I am right.
That's right. Not ready to listen.
I know.
Right.
I know. I am right. And ego doesn't want to be enlightened. Ego doesn't want to be changed. Guru Sahib ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਿਨ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਨਾ ਉਪਜੇ ਹਉਮੈ ਮੈਲ ਨਾ ਜਾਏ. You must walk on the spiritual path to get out of this trap.
Right.
Guru Sahib next ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਉਮੈ ਬੂਝੇ ਤਾਂ ਦਰ ਸੂਝੇ. You know, it's very important that your turn will only happen when one recognize I have the problem. I have chosen a wrong path. And ego is an illusion when you recognize that this is not you, this is your acquired habit, and then you can start walking on the spiritual path. All my life I have pursued ego, slave my own mind, and never listened to the Guru. This disease is not easy to cure, does not want to be changed. Guru Sahib says that's you have to haume buje taan sar suje. So once we after listening to, once we recognize that I have this problem and I have to find a solution of that, only then you start walking on the spiritual path.
Right, so that's the first step is to recognize it and then start working on it. But many times what happens is we do not want to recognize that.
ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਹਉਮੈ ਆ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਛਾਣ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦਾ, ਉਹ ਮੰਨਦਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਗਲਤ ਹਾਂ. This is what ਹਉਮੈ is. ਹਉਮੈ ਦਾ ਮਕਸਦ ਹੀ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਠੀਕ ਹਾਂ ਤੂੰ ਗਲਤ ਹੈ, ਮੈਂ ਠੀਕ ਹਾਂ ਤੂੰ ਗਲਤ ਹੈ. ਤੇ ਉਹ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਚਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰੈਕਗਨਾਈਜ਼ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨੇ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, you're not going to find solution.
Right, and ਇਹਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਹੀ ਬਾਣੀ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਵੀ ਲਿਸਨ ਹੋ ਇਕੱਤਰ ਮਿਲੋ ਮੇਰੇ ਭਾਈ ਦੁਬਿਧਾ ਦੂਰ ਕਰੋ ਲਿਵਲਾਈ. If there is any contention, any problem which has arisen, sit down and talk about it rather than just gratifying your ego more and more that I am right.
Unless you don't recognize it, you will never start on the right path.
We'll continue with the discussion ਜੀ. ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ, ਛੋਟੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ, ਵਾਪਸ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ. ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਸਰਦਾਰ ਹਰਬੰਸ ਸਿੰਘ ਕੰਡੋਲਾ ਨਾਲ ਆਸਾ ਕੀ ਵਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਈ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਰੀ ਰੱਖਾਂਗੇ. ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਦ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਸ਼ੋਅ.